What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to the Tailgate Nate Sports Show. I cover the NFL, MLB, NBA, MLS, and NHL. Today I'm going to be covering the week from September 6th to September 12th. And on the agenda today, conference finals are almost set in the NBA. Who do I think is going to make it to the NBA Finals? Talk about that here in a little bit. In Major League Baseball, the regular season is coming to a close. Are the playoffs already set? We'll talk about that as well. And the trade market is starting to open up in the NHL. I'll tell you who got traded this past week. I'll give you all of that and more coming up on the Tailgate Nate Sports Show. All right, again, we start with the NFL, where the regular season did kick off with a Thursday night football game this week. Now, I know I am going to be a week behind on NFL games, but that's just how it's going to work, so I apologize. I will be covering the previous week. I will be covering the previous week of Sunday and Monday games, and then the following Thursday night game is usually how that's going to work. But just this week, first Thursday night football game got played. But first, here are some headlines after being released by the Washington football team. Adrian Peterson signs with the Detroit Lions, so Detroit got a pretty good running back tandem there now. Don't know about his availability. Does Matt Patricia know? Again, availability is just a big thing with Adrian Peterson. But if he can get on the field, Lions might be a team you got to watch out for. The Buccaneers signed quarterback Josh Rosen to the practice squad after he was cut by the Miami Dolphins. Of course, the Buccaneers signing Tom Brady and just getting all sorts of great talent over there at Tampa Bay. They played their first game as of recording this today. Well, let's see how they play on the field. The Cardinals and wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins agreed to a 2-year, $54.5 million extension. Big sign there from the Cardinals after they got him in the trade from Houston. The Browns and running back Kareem Hunt agree on a 2-year, $13 million extension. So Browns going to keep Kareem Hunt in Cleveland for a couple years to come. And out of a total of 8,349 tests, only one was positive in the NFL. So the NFL season looks like it could go off without a hitch, but again, we saw what happened with Major League Baseball, so we'll have to see if this streak can continue. The Broncos linebacker Von Miller is going to have possible season-ending surgery after injuring his ankle in the practice before the Broncos were supposed to open up play that coming Sunday. A huge loss for this Broncos team. I hope Von Miller makes a good recovery. The Rams and Jalen Ramsey agreed to a 5-year, $105 million extension, making Ramsey the highest paid defensive back, that's safety or cornerback, in NFL history. Jalen Ramsey, of course, coming over from Jacksonville, so we'll have to see how big of a part he makes to this Los Angeles Rams team. Chiefs cornerback Travarius Ward fractures his hand, so now the Chiefs are slim at the cornerback position. If he does not end up playing in the game next week, both of the Chiefs' starting quarterbacks are going to be out. So they're going to have to rely on some young guys to come in and play that cornerback position for Kansas City. A couple running backs signed new deals as Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara both agreed on 5-year extensions worth $62.5 million and $75 million respectively. So both those teams looking to keep their star running backs around for a long time. There are your headlines. Let's get into this Thursday night football game. It was the Chiefs and Texans who opened up play on Thursday. The Chiefs came out on top by 2 touchdowns. It was 34-20. Patty Mahomes did what he did, 211 yards for 3 touchdowns. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, how about the rookie coming in and making an impact in his first game? The Chiefs, really all they need to do is fill that running back spot. Clyde Edwards-Helaire seemed to have filled that pretty well. Out of LSU, 17 carries, 138 yards, and a touchdown. As Watkins, Kelsey, and Hill had 3 receiving touchdowns combined, 1 each. As for the Texans, Deshaun Watson played well, 253 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. David Johnson battled some injuries throughout this game, but still 77 yards and a touchdown. Will Fuller was on display, 112 yards on 8 catches, but just could not get into the end zone. The Texans follow the Chiefs in the first game of the season. Chiefs starting to defend their Super Bowl ring on a good note. No predictions this week, and that is your NFL news. All right, we move on here to the MLS. Start with some headlines. Former U.S. men's national team captain Carlos Bocanegra. Sorry, I was practicing that before this, and I screwed up here. But Carlos Bocanegra is elected into the National Soccer Hall of Fame for his efforts just all over the pitch when he played. Again, I never got the privilege to see him play, but was a pretty darn good player, hence why he was the captain of the U.S. men's national team. The CONCACAF World Cup qualifying is going to start in March of 2021. I believe it was scheduled to start earlier, but again, because of this pandemic, it was pushed back to March of 2021. 3 Minnesota United players are going to be out 2 to 3 weeks, and that does include Ethan Finley. So Mason Toye is going to come in and have to play a lot of minutes for this Minnesota United team, and I think people are going to see what Mason Toye can do. This is some sad news. When Josef Martinez went down with his ACL injury out for the season, we thought that was going to be the last one, but Portland Timbers star Sebastian Blanco tore his ACL, and he is going to be out for the season. That is an absolute huge loss for the Portland Timbers. Sebastian Blanco was a big part of that MLS is Back tournament championship team, and now he's not going to be playing the rest of the season. Some sad news for the Portland Timbers. Gonzalo Higuain joining Inter Miami from Juventus. This has been circulating in the news a lot, but he has finally arrived in Miami to sign the contract. I do not believe the contract is official quite yet, but he's going to join Blaise Matuidi as a guy coming over from Juventus to play for Inter Miami. So all of a sudden, Inter Miami looks very, very dangerous. Have to see how he plays on the pitch. The MLS releases a match schedule through September as they are going to continue to release fixtures as, of course, this pandemic and everything gets opened up. But Canadian teams are going to start playing outside of Canada. So exciting news there in the MLS. Here we go again. Sporting KC player tests positive for the coronavirus. And what ramifications does this have? We did hear Chicago Fire test positive. Nothing really troubling happened there. Sporting KC supposed to play their next fixture against Minnesota United. We'll have to see if that gets postponed. There are your headlines. Take a look at some scores. This was the game where Sebastian Blanco tore his ACL, but Portland still beats Seattle 2-1 as Eric Williamson, Felipe Mora get goals for the Timbers, and Kevin Leardom scores for Seattle. 4 yellow cards for Portland, 2 yellow cards for Seattle. Minnesota United beat FC Dallas 3-2. Mason Toye scored in the 11th minute. Again, I love this Mason Toye kid. He's become one of my favorite players in MLS. We'll have to see if he can continue that. Kevin Molino scored twice as well, and then Ricardo Pepe and Santiago Mosquera scored for FC Dallas. Now, this wasn't all said and done. Santiago Mosquera scored. FC Dallas had some momentum, and Romain Metzner, got a red card in the 82nd minute. I didn't think it deserved a red card, but the official did. FC Dallas had their scoring chances, but Minnesota United survived against FC Dallas. Chicago and Columbus played to a 2-2 draw after Chicago scored twice in the first 15 minutes with Mihalovic and Robert Barrick scoring the 11th and 14th minute. Fatai Allah scores in the 68th minute, and all of a sudden the Crew have life. And then the 88th minute, Yassi Zardes ties it up for the Crew, and as the Chicago Fire surrender a point to the Supporters Shield leading Columbus Crew. 5 cards for Chicago and 2 for Columbus. Philadelphia and New England played yet again as Anthony Fonseca scores in the 73rd minute. Jean Buchanan scores in the 81st as Philadelphia has 5 yellow cards. Matt Polster gets the first yellow card of the game in the 8th minute, and then a second that turns into a red card in the 56th minute as New England was shorthanded from the 56th minute on, and Anthony Fonseca scored in the 5th minute of stoppage time to win the game for the Philadelphia Union. There are your scores and stats. Again, let's take a look at some standings. Again, Columbus Crew still on top, 3 points better than anyone else in the league right now is the Philadelphia Union. Toronto FC right up there with the Columbus Crew. And then the Western Conference, Seattle has solidified themselves on top. There's the Western Conference, as I said, still more way wide open. Vancouver and San Jose, though, got some work to do, but Western Conference still definitely wide open. You can look at teams 1 through 10 there in that Western Conference. There you can pretty much shuffle those around, although LAFC looking like they need some help. There is your MLS news. All right, now we move on to Major League Baseball, where again, the season is just starting to come to a close. Here are some headlines, not a lot of headlines. Puerto Rican players were cleared to wear Roger Clemente's number 21 on Wednesday to honor Roger Clemente on Roger Clemente Day. The Puerto Rican star was absolutely phenomenal, and to honor him, lots of players wore the number 21 on Wednesday, but Puerto Rican players were cleared to wear that number, and lots of other players were cleared to wear that number, as well as the Pirates all wore number 21 to honor the former Pirate, Roger Clemente. Hall of Famer Lou Brock dies at 81, so the Cardinals superstar in his time died at 81. Again, sad to see him go. Was a very, very good player, hence why he is in the Hall of Fame. Justin Timberlake is in a group that wants an MLB team in Nashville. So here's the interesting discussion. Does the MLB do what the NHL has done and expand to 31 teams and then hopefully get a 32nd in there somewhere? Or do you move a team? So do you move a team like Baltimore? Do you move them to Nashville? Do you move, right? Like, do you move one of the Los Angeles teams that, like, it's a whole debate on whether they expand to 31 or they move a team. I don't know if there's going to be a team in Nashville anytime soon, but maybe it could happen. Giants released infielder Pablo Sandoval after Pablo Sandoval is one of the favorite players amongst Giants fans, and the Giants released him. He's not been performing up to standards this year, and Giants are looking to get into a playoff spot this year. I believe currently hold a wild card spot, so Giants just looking to get in that playoff push, and they see that is best to do it without Pablo Sandoval. Tampa Bay Rays start all lefty batters, and that's the first time in baseball's modern era that has happened. The Yankees pitched a right-handed hitter, and Tampa Bay said, well, when they go right, we're going to go all left. So they started all lefty batters, and again, that's the first time baseball's modern era that has happened. The Giants have a positive test, and the Padres games got postponed. So, of course, with the Giants' positive test, with this Giants positive test, could they become the new team? But again, we are seeing that teams are getting back on the field quicker and quicker after discovering that they have a positive test. But for now, Giants are not going to be playing baseball. The MLB playoff bubble plan is set. So I do believe the Texas Rangers ballpark is going to be hosting the World Series. But it still awaits okay from the Players Union. So we'll have to see if that gets approved. There are your headlines. Take a look at some scores and stats. The Rockies and Dodgers played in a very, very good game. Matt Kemp had a go-ahead 2-run home run in the 8th inning as the Rockies and Matt Kemp beat his former team 7-6. Almonte gets the win. Ferguson gets the loss, and Bard gets the save. Dodgers and Diamondbacks played in a 10th inning thriller. The Dodgers rallied from a 5-1 deficit, and this was interesting. 7 runs were scored in the 10th. Dodgers scored 4, and the Diamondbacks scored 3. So the Dodgers, of course, batted first in the 10th inning, and the Diamondbacks were rallying back, but they just could not get all 4 runs. As the Dodgers beat the Diamondbacks 10-9, and Dodgers look like they're going to finish with the best record in Major League Baseball as Jansen gets his 3rd win of the season. The Braves scored 29 runs. The Giants scored 23 runs earlier this season, and now the Braves scored 29 as Duvall had 3 home runs, 9 RBIs, and 2 base on balls as he went 3 of 4. 29 is 1 run shy of the record in the modern era set by the Texas Rangers against the Baltimore Orioles. It was 30-3 was that game, but the Braves beat the Marlins 29-9. Crazy. The Royals beat the Indians 11-1. As Singer was flirting with a no-hitter in this game, but beat the Indians by 10 runs. Singer does not finish with a no-hitter, but pretty darn close as he gets the win. Royals beat the Indians 11-1. Nationals beat the Braves 8-7. Bork gets the win. Dayton gets the loss. Nationals not looking like they're going to make the playoffs this year, but it's nice to get a win every once in a while. The Yankees beat the Orioles in the 10th inning on a Luke Voigt game-winning sacrifice fly. Holder's going to get the win as the Yankees solidifying themselves as one of baseball's playoff teams. player scores and stats. Let's take a look at some standings. So I did mention the playoffs are already set, right? Well, okay, you know what? Let's take a look. Rays, Blue Jays, Yankees, White Sox, Twins, Indians, Athletics, and Astros all currently hold a playoff spot. That's not looking like it's going to change. You look there, no one has higher than 2.9% other than those 8 teams I just mentioned to make the playoffs in the American League. Crazy, absolutely crazy that the American League is pretty much already set. Now, when you move on over to the National League, again, it's still a bit more wide open, but definitely not as wide open as it was. Again, the Giants holding that top wild card spot, but the second wild card spot still up for grabs. You got the Brewers, the Marlins, the Mets, Rockies, and Reds still vying for that a wild card spot, but the Nationals, Pirates, and Diamondbacks do seem to be out of the playoff conversation. So again, the West still more wide open. You got the top 2 teams in each division really solidifying themselves as they are going to make the playoffs, but those wild card spots are still open, so it's going to be an interesting race to the finish in Major League Baseball. As that is your MLB news. All right, we move on to the NBA, where again the conference finals are almost set. Well, let's take a look at some headlines. Clippers guard Patrick Beverley is going to be fined $25,000 for his verbal abuse towards officials. This was not happy with a lot of the calls being made in a recent Clippers game and was fined $25,000 for it. The NBA approves a plan to let families in for the conference finals. More on that in a little bit, but much like what the NHL is doing, families are going to be let in to watch the conference final games. Billy Donovan and the Thunder mutually agree to part ways, so the Thunder going to be looking for a new head coach, possibly could hire Nate McMillan. Maybe, possibly could hire Nate McMillan as he got fired from the Pacers, but Billy Donovan's going to be looking for a new place to coach. I think he very well could move back down to the college basketball level as well. Marvin Williams announces his retirement after the Milwaukee Bucks get ousted by the Miami Heat. More on that in a little bit. But Marvin Williams been in the league for, I believe, 15 years. So he is going to be out of the league. He was a good player in his time, and his time has just come for him to retire. The Grizzlies hire Sonia Rahman as an assistant coach. She's going to be replacing another assistant coach there at the Grizzlies, but Sonia Rahman has a lot of basketball IQ, a very, very high basketball IQ. I think this is a great hire for the Grizzlies as they already have a good young team with Jaren Jackson and John Morant, highlighted by a veteran in Jonas Valanciunas, as well as a lot of role players there. I just think the Grizzlies need some true star power. I do think John Morant's going to be able to give that to him as well as Jaren Jackson, but Sonia Rahman, great hire for this Grizzlies team. Rockets guard Daniel House is kicked from the bubble after violating bubble protocol. He had an unwanted, but he had an uncertified guest in his hotel room, was investigated by the NBA, found out he had someone in his room that was not supposed to be there and said, hey, you out. So Daniel House did not play Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals against the Los Angeles Lakers. And Rondo's brother was ejected from the seats after taunting Russell Westbrook. It was a very, I don't want to say funny, but it was pretty funny to watch Rondo's brother get ejected from the seats after he was taunting Russell Westbrook. I mean, again, like officials, if you have 80,000 people or if you have 20,000 people screaming at you that a call was wrong, it's not going to bother you. You can't throw everyone out, but when you have one person bothering you, it's really easy to pick them out and throw them out. That's just what happened as Rondo's brother got ejected. There are your headlines. Take a look at scores and stats here. Boom, here's how things are shaking out. The Clippers can wrap up the series with Denver today as they play Game 6 and can solidify themselves in the Western Conference Final. But Miami beat the Bucks in 5. The Celtics beat the Raptors in 7. It was a very, very exciting Game 7 to watch. The Lakers beat the Rockets in 5. So how does this set up the NBA Conference Finals? Or excuse me, here are how my predictions fared. I did pick the Bucks in 7. I mean, the Heat are just playing out of their minds right now. So are the Boston Celtics as they ousted the defending NBA champions in 6 games, Los Angeles Lakers. I did get that prediction right. I predict them to win in 6. They won in 5. And the Clippers, I predict to win in 6. That prediction can be 100% right if the Clippers win today. So now, how does this set up the conference finals? Here's how it sets up the conference finals. In the Eastern Conference, you have Boston and Miami. That is going to be one heck of a series. I mean, Boston and Miami are both just playing absolutely out of their mind. I do have the Miami Heat winning that in 7. I do believe the consensus in a lot of places I've checked is going to be the Boston Celtics to win, but I mean, the Heat are just playing out of their mind right now. I know the Bucks did not look the best, but the Celtics just played a hard series, so they're going to be a little tired, and the Heat have had some rest. Again, rest has affected different teams differently during these NBA playoffs, but I do think that the Miami Heat are going to advance to the NBA Finals for, I believe, the first time since 2014, since LeBron James was there. Says a lot about LeBron, doesn't it? Los Angeles Lakers and LA Clippers are looking to set up a battle for LA in the Western Conference Finals. I mean, this is also going to be a great, just a great series. I do have the Lakers winning it in 7, while I think the Clippers are a deeper team. I think the Lakers are playing better basketball right now than the Los Angeles Clippers, and I have been wrong about these before, but I do think it's going to be the Heat and Lakers setting up for the NBA Finals. But whether that, like any of these matchups here, imagine if we get the Celtics and Lakers in the NBA Finals. That would be the first time since, I believe, 2011 that we've had both of those powers in the NBA Finals. Man, that would be an absolutely phenomenal series. Wouldn't it? That would just be so much fun. But I think any matchup you can pair here is going to be absolutely exciting. But I do have the Miami Heat and Los Angeles Lakers moving on to set up the NBA Finals. That is your NBA news. All right, again, our final sport is the NHL, where the conference finals are pretty much halfway done. We'll take a look at how those are shaping up. But first, a lot of headlines as NHL Awards started to get handed out this week. The Wild's Matt Dumba is going to be awarded the King Clancy Trophy for his anti-racism efforts during these times of social injustice. I know not a lot of people like Matt Dumba, but Matt Dumba did a lot of great stuff in the racism movement to stop social injustice, and got the King Clancy Trophy for it. Senators Bobby Ryan is awarded the Masterton Trophy for sharing his alcohol abuse story. Bobby Ryan was an absolute superstar, and now he's going to get the Masterton for just, again, he's like the Kevin Love of the NHL, at least to me, where he's just sharing his stories with everyone and making sure that people know what he's going through, so other people like Bobby Ryan do not have to go through it. Absolutely incredible from Bobby Ryan. The Bruins' Bruce Cassidy wins Coach of the Year, which this was a surprise to me. He's just not the coach that you would normally expect to win Coach of the Year. What normally happens with Coach of the Year is your team wasn't supposed to be there. Good job. Your team wasn't supposed to be in the playoffs, but you got here. You're going to get Coach of the Year. Instead, they really did give it to the coach who was kind of already expected to do this, but did it anyway. Like, I don't really know what I think about it, but Bruce Cassidy is your 2019 Coach of the Year. Or I should say 2020 Coach of the Year, am I right? Flyers Sean Couturier awarded the Frank J. Selke Award for his top defensive forward, and it is about time that Sean Couturier won the Selke. I mean, wow. He's just been such a defensive forward for so many years, and finally got the Selke for it. It only took a global pandemic, but Sean Couturier finally got his hands on a Selke Award. I'm so happy for Sean Couturier. The NHL draft is going to be moved to October 6th through 7th, and free agency slated to start a couple days later on October 9th. Free agency is going to be crazy this year in the NHL. Lots of big names going to be moving around places. The Avalanche's Nathan MacKinnon is going to be awarded the Lady Byng Trophy for the best sportsmanship. It's what the NHL players like to call it, the Ladylike Award. But I believe Nathan MacKinnon only served like 12 minutes in the penalty box, something like that, a career low. And Nathan MacKinnon just one of the best sportsmanship players out there on the ice, as he wins the Lady Byng Trophy. I don't think there was much of a surprise here. Now people are going to start signing and trading. The Kings signed defenseman Sean Walker to a 4-year, $10.6 million extension. He's played some good hockey for them in years past and going to stay with the Kings for the foreseeable future. The Penguins trade center Nick Dugstad to the Wild for the conditional 2021 pick. So what happened with this 2021 pick was the Penguins either take it this year or next year, and they decided to take it next year, but they also decided to take it this year, but they also traded it, and now they traded away the 2021 pick. It's a whole bunch of mess. The Penguins are really focused on trying to improve now rather than improve later. Of course, with Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, they're not getting any younger. More like Sidney Crosby's not getting any younger, but it doesn't feel like that, right? Penguins trying to improve now rather than later, and they proved that with this pick. Hurricanes trade defenseman Joel Edmondson and his rights to Montreal for a 5th-round pick. So they got Edmondson over from St. Louis after he won the Stanley Cup with St. Louis, and now he's going to be part of the Montreal organization. So Edmondson will become a free agent unless Montreal decides to sign the young defenseman. And the Islanders, Lou Lamoriello, yeah. The Islanders, Lou Lamoriello, named NHL GM of the Year after the Islanders are in the conference finals. So a big win there for the Islanders GM. There are your headlines. Take a look at how the conference finals are shaping out. Shall we? Tampa Bay Lightning up 2-1 against the New York Islanders. 8-2 in the first game, 2-1 in game 3, and the Islanders won 5-3 in game 3. Vegas Golden Knights and Dallas Stars are playing to a pretty good series, but Dallas has a 3-1 lead. Blanked Vegas 1-0 in game 1. Then Vegas blanked Dallas 3-0 in game 2. And it took an overtime game for Dallas to go up 2-1. And they just shut down Vegas in game 4. So game 4 of Tampa Bay, New York tonight. I should say this afternoon, and game 5 of Vegas and Dallas going to be played tomorrow. That is Monday. So we'll have to see how these series end up shaping out. But here are how my predictions are faring. The Tampa Bay Lightning I predicted to win in 7. They're up 2-1, and I picked the Knights to win in 6. So the 6 is out the window, but if the Vegas Knights are still going to win, they're going to have to win 3 straight games, which is not going to be easy, as Dallas is just playing some pretty darn good hockey. They are 1 win away from going to the Stanley Cup, and they have not been to the conference finals in such a long time now. They are doing pretty well. They're playing some pretty good hockey. So Dallas could very well find themselves in the Stanley Cup final. We'll have to see how the conference finals play out. That is your NHL news. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like. Also consider subscribing if you are brand new to the channel, or just enjoy my content, turn on that notification bell to join Tailgate Nation. And if you haven't done so already, please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this week in sports. And please go check out my college football YouTube channel. College football is back in full swing. You will hear me recap the previous week and preview the next week on that show. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to play hard and tailgate harder, and I'll see all you lovely people next week. Goodbye.